What up? Right now, some of you may be looking at that title and say, well, "Who the hell believes that?" Right? I'll be honest. The first time I heard about the flat Earth theory, I thought it was a big joke. Right? I did. Oh, they would come on. No, nobody really believes that shit. But like, it's a big portion of the population, but enough people that makes it very worrisome. Believe it, or B, consider it equal uh, to the Earth being round, right, or a sphere. Like they put it in equal grounds, which is astonishing, right? Almost every argument I've ever heard against the world being round, let's say round for the purpose of this video, almost every single one, if not all of them, you could use it against the flat Earth theory too, right? Like, well, you never been in space and seen it yourself. Well, you never seen a fucking flat Earth yourself from space either, right? Nobody's taking a picture, right? Are you telling me right now? Look, this shit gives me a headache. Let me tell you why. Because this should not. We should be past this. Okay. Now that's what's frustrating about this. This should not be. We shouldn't have to like waste time, right? Explaining all this. There's only so much bandwidth we have in our lifetime, and wasting time trying to show people that the world is round when we all know it is. Okay. There's empirical evidence. You know what that means? There's so much evidence that the world is round, it's not even funny. Some people use words like, well, I don't believe it is, or it's all a conspiracy, like, well, you're accusing it of being a conspiracy. You're already, I mean, out the window. What you have is a very weak hypothesis, is what you have, okay? And a bunch of made up shit on the internet. And like everything else, I didn't bother, spending too much time debating these people. Okay. What I did is just where the source of this came from, right? Now, this is not all exclusive to, but a big portion of this is religion, right? The Bible. Now, look, not all flat Earth, Earthers are, using that. But I'll never forget a video I saw where someone was making the argument that the world is round. That sphere that they're trying to sell to you is all a bunch of bullshit, and it's just to make you feel insignificant in this huge universe that they're trying to tell you that we live in, because they want to make you feel so insignificant and keep you away from God. That's what they said, right? Now, I mean, is that a stretch? Yeah, that's a bit. That's like, wow, like, really? I've heard. Well, you can't. The government and NASA is lying. Like, you don't need NASA, and you don't need the United States government to know that the world is round. We've known the world is round before the United States government existed. Oh, like, look, man. A lot of you obviously wouldn't be very good detectives, and you would not be able to solve a crime unless you had video evidence of it. Apparently, okay. So, according to some of you, um, an investigator cannot figure out what happened unless they were there to see it themselves, according to some of you, right? There are, you can gather evidence, you can test it, right? And everything from, you know, uh, let's see, the Coriolis effect, all right, about the snipers, okay, how they factor that in, whether they're in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, all right, rotates, right? And why would it rotate if it was flat, right? Not to mention that the hilarious post I see on Facebook from flat earthers saying things like, very ironically saying, To all flat earthers all around the world, we have this message. I mean, all right. Now, if you are convinced that the world is flat, I have something very serious to tell you. All right. I don't believe that you believe that it's flat. I just don't. Right. I don't. I think you're trying very hard. Right? It would be the most. It would be the dumbest conspiracy ever manufactured. Pointless reason ever. All right. to, to show why the world is round. Right. I mean, it would be the most. Wow. Right. I mean, we're way past this. I mean, we're trying to figure out what dark matter in the universe is right now, and motherfuckers want to bring us all the way back to the Middle Ages, okay, to debate the fucking flat Earth. I mean, this shit's insane. What's next? What are we going to question next? Some of you, you're just not qualified, right? You're just not. I don't care how many Google searches you make, and not everything on Google is true. I mean, why do you think you need textbooks in college? All right. Well, why is it that you need that book and just going to Google is not going to make you pass the class? Why do you think that is? Right? Look, look, man. So why am I making this video? Because I ran into uh, Mike's video. Shout out to Big Mike. And I mean, people are making arguments like, "Well, you can't believe what you hear." And look, man, I am the biggest advocate of being a skeptic. Right? I am. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually healthy. But being a skeptic, questioning everything you're told, is very different to just dismissing everything you're told. There's a big difference. All right. So just because, for example, you don't trust the media, it doesn't mean that everything, like, first of all, media, quote unquote, is a very vague term, right? It's very vague. Not every reporter is the same. Not every single newspaper is the same. Not every article is the same. Okay, even in their own networks, not every person on that network is the same. Right? It's a very vague thing to say, but nonetheless, just dismiss everything. You can't just say, "Well, whatever the media says, I'm just going to believe the opposite." Are you shitting me? And I've heard people say shit like that. So you're just going to go the opposite of whatever they tell you? Really? Just because it's going to be a rule of thumb, right? That's a pretty stupid rule of thumb. How about you just, you know, use critical thinking, and all right, you just formulate, yes, of course, your own opinion from the actual facts. And how about you just, recognize the facts for what they are? How about you just do that? Why do you have to just dismiss everything you hear? That is very lazy thinking. And no, I'm not going to apologize for saying that. That's very, very lazy thinking. All right? It's very convenient, lazy thinking. I mean, it's so you're telling me you question everything on CNN, which, look, I'm not a fan of CNN, but just because CNN reports something doesn't mean I'm going to just dismiss it like it doesn't exist. All right? If it wasn't for CNN, Michael Flynn would have never been caught, or at least not yet, and he wouldn't have been prison. Right? So the media does have a purpose. It's not perfect. I have a lot of issues with the media. Right? Yes, they're very misleading with reports at times, or more often than they should. Okay, of course, all those things apply, right? But you have to be able to have critical thinking, and you have to be able to look at the evidence, and you have to be able to dissect that information for yourself. It's about being reasonable, all right? You can't just dismiss everything just because, okay? You can't just say, "Well, hey, in my Bible it says it's flat, so it's flat." just because it tells you. It's insane, right? That is absolutely insane. So you're going to question everything that you hear on the media, but you're not going to question anything you read in the Bible, is what you're telling me. That is insane. All right? That is crazy. All right? Oh, hey. Don't, be careful. Look, I'm going to coddle people, right? That's dumb. I'm not here to coddle anybody, right? It falls back to people who have very, very strong, okay, beliefs, and around Earth just happens, in their opinion or in their uh, philosophy or in their religion or their way of thinking, it just happens to not make sense in their worldview. And so they just want to say shit like, hey, well, the Earth looks flat to me. When I walk outside, it looks flat, so I guess it's flat, right? Do you know how far, okay, you could look through a telescope, right? And you're able to see planets that are far away. And by the way, you can actually see that they're spheres, okay? Um, you do understand that if that was the case, there's no reason you wouldn't be able to climb the Sears Tower, okay, and look through one of these things and be able to see fucking Los Angeles. There wouldn't be a reason. But you can't. It disappears at the horizon at some point. And then you have people that try to argue that on fucking Google and on forums and shit. But they can't, apparently they can't even raise enough money to prove that the earth is flat, right? Red Bull could get a fucking a damn rocket ship or whatever the fuck you want to call it, okay, way past orbit or whatever, to have a dude, jump off the shit. Red Bull could do that. But the flat earthers till this day, all right, many of them, okay, that are subscribed by people that, because of their religion, and these churches get a lot of money, they don't pay taxes. I mean, you would think they'd be able to raise enough money to, I mean, just think about it. If you're telling me right now, right, that the entire flat earth movement, on the truth, all right, you're telling me right now that they have not figured out a way to get somebody in space to just show everybody that the earth is flat. They haven't figured it out yet. I'll tell you what, do it. I'll give you I don't know, how long should we give them, right? But even flat earth theory guys gotta, admit at some point, all right, especially with today's technology, you should be able to really prove it. Like you should, this whole like and let's hold it down and let's debate it like if they're two equal things. They're not equal. The flat earth theory was just flat out made up. Okay, it was flat out made up. Okay, it's everything. Like I heard things like, I tell people like, what explains the seasons, and how many hours there's in the day, and why certain parts are colder than others, and why there's a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere, and you know why the moon, okay, looks different throughout the month, and why there's a full moon, and why an eclipse happens, and why we know when an eclipse is going to happen, and it's. And they're like, well, the flat earthers, they have explanations for that too. No, they just made it up. They just made it up. A flat earther cannot tell you a lot of these things, right? They can't. Scientists know when a eclipse is going to happen years in advance. They know years in advance. Flat earthers can't tell you that, right? You know what they say? This is what they say. Yeah, they're saying is years in advance, but the people that run the flat Earth, it's really a disc. They're just gonna make the eclipse happen, with the disc and the thing, when that day comes, Yeah, what did they forget? So, the moon is a disc, right? So like, prove it. Are you gonna fucking prove it? It doesn't explain a lot of things, but let's just take it for what it is, right? Oh yeah, and the sun is smarter than the earth. That makes a lot of sense, right? If the earth was flat, the sun would never disappear from our sight. Okay, it would never disappear, ever, right? You would always see it. It would always be at sight, right? Oh, no. You don't believe the sun's that far. Okay, fair enough. All right, whatever. All right? You know what the best part is? Is that they do the whole mock strategy, right? Where they're like, "Oh, he's the idiot. You know, he's bought into the whole matrix system. You know, and he's been brainwashed to believe that the shit is fucking round. You know, nah, like you're just believing shit that people made up on fucking Google, and there's a very good chance a lot of these dudes are just trolling to see how many idiots actually believe it. Okay." Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about it then. All right. This shit's insane. Fucking round earth's on trial. Like, what are we doing? Are you shitting me? We have opportunity to have all these scientific advances, to advance our society. Look at all these great things that science has done for us, right? But we want to go back and debate the fucking earth and whether it's flat or not. I mean, what a fucking waste of time. What a waste of it's a waste of time. I'm wasting my breath right now talking about this shit, right? Which, by the way, that's a thing called oxygen, right? That we breathe. There's people that, and they say shit that they quote unquote believe, right? I believe that, somebody's just controlling all this shit with remotes and shit. Like, if they want to make it, they make the earthquake happen. It's not like, earthquake, it's just Mother Nature. Now they make it happen, right? Do they have proof of this? No. Right? Do they prove it? Do they ever prove this shit? No. Right? They never prove it. They have no proof. Just a hunch, just a feeling. This shit's crazy. So you're telling me right now that all that, it's all controlled, right? The sun's controlled, the moon is controlled. They make eclipses happen, and it never malfunctions, is what you're telling me, right? Everything malfunctions, right? Anything. The most advanced computers, software eventually has to be updated. It could shut down after, even if it's a 2-minute thing, But apparently, it never malfunctions. It just works perfectly, like a whistle, right? And nobody's ever figured it out, right? All these years, all these telescopes, right? And nobody's ever caught like a body in the moon, moving shit. Okay, nobody's ever proven that it's a fucking disc. Nobody's ever proven that it's fucking flat. Ever prove that it's flat. Ever. It's never. That day is not gonna come. If the day comes that they prove, like someone goes to space, like holy shit, it's flat. Never happens. All right. I will come on here. I will apologize, and I will shut down my entire channel. All right. It's not gonna happen because that's dumb. It doesn't exist. All these pictures you see. You know what I keep hearing? Like all these pictures around Earth, man, they're all fake, man. They're all fake. Do you guys understand, right? There's a thing called satellite. Now, there's people that say that they don't believe in satellites, okay? Right. Um, now, I don't know if you guys have ever aligned a satellite dish, whether for internet, for TV, to webcast, whatever it is, right? Where the satellite is, whether it's in the eastern arc or the western arc. Don't worry about that terminology, but just stay with me, okay? It's pretty simple. West side, east, east, right? Think of the U.S., okay? with companies like DirecTV and Dish Network, all right, these satellites are up in space, okay? Now stay with me. In the East Coast, the satellites at all times, by the way, they're more slanted than they are in the West Coast if it's a Western arc satellite. Now, many of these companies, DirecTV and Dish, right, and others like HughesNet, they made an Eastern arc for people that live in the East Coast because they had a very low signal. And that was whether it's this 77 degrees or the 72 degrees, 61 degrees, all right? And look let's look it all up, all right? Technically speaking, people that live in Canada and Mexico can actually, even Cuba, people from Cuba steal service from these companies, okay? But they can get free TV and all that good stuff. Mexico too, and that's why they had to like upgrade their smart cards so nobody could steal shit. But people still figure it all out. You know how it is, right? Puerto Rico, which is kind of a little far off, right? They need a bigger dish, a bigger satellite, okay, for the Western Arc one, okay, for the west side. Why do you think that is? Well, why do you think that is? It's not a distant thing, right? It's the fact that a small portion of that satellite, right, because it's being cut off from the round Earth, right? People that live in Hawaii cannot get signal from the Eastern Arc satellites, right? They actually get it from the Western Arc satellites, and they need a bigger dish as well. Furthermore, someone in, let's say, England or China cannot get any signal. You cannot get a satellite dish and pick up a signal, right, from Dish or DirecTV. You can't do it, right? They have their own satellites like Sky TV, like in England, right? You cannot order, right, a Sky TV satellite dish from England, have it shipped to you, and align it to pick up a signal, right? Because of where the satellite is. It's too far, or not just too far, it's cut off, right? Why are the satellites in the East Coast slanted to pick up a signal from the West Coast? Why aren't they pointing up? If the Earth was flat and there were satellites up into the sky, you could literally pick up a signal with a satellite dish from any satellite, right? Now, this is not to be confused with dishes that pick up signal from a satellite and then transport signal to another satellite, right? I know a lot of you already lost, right? But my point is, when you actually like work in shit where the flat Earth it does not apply, where like it's reality and the Earth is actually round, okay? Like when you work in, whether it's as a architect or okay, whenever you're gonna build a skyscraper and you see those dudes like miles away, like looking through this little like thing, like kind of like it's not a telescope, right? But they're actually measuring shit, okay, because they got to keep like all that shit in mind. The world's not really flat, okay. And that's that. Okay, it is what it is. Okay, and that's that. Right. Anyway, um, anyway, I I really hope that I really am hopeful anyway that majority of people can just snap out of it, man. This flat Earth thing is just ridiculous. There's no other way around it. It's ridiculous. Okay. And I understand that some people are so deeply invested into it, it's a point of no return. And I understand that when when you're so deeply invested in something, you don't want to admit that, okay, yeah, it's just stupid. It doesn't make sense, right? It's been disproven. Because flat Earth is not only does it not meet the standard of proving that it's flat, it can be easily disprovable, which is insane, right? Like, not even a God, you know, can be proven not to be real. You can't prove that God does not exist. You can't prove that, right? You can't really prove that he does exist either, right? But in the case of the flat Earth, like, not only can you not prove it, disprove it. That's how weak the flat Earth argument is. Just think about that. It doesn't even mean like, I mean, I mean, like in court, right? Could you imagine being so guilty that uh, you can't even prove, like, well, let me get it. I have it reversed, right? In a court of law, supposedly anyway, we're talking about it the way it should be, but in a court of law, you don't have to prove your innocence. You just have to prove that you're not guilty, right? Or you don't have to prove anything, that is, right? It's only the prosecution has to prove that you're guilty. You don't have to prove anything, right? Could you imagine being that you could prove you're innocent in court? I mean, those cases don't even make it to court. A grand jury will dismiss that, right? Innocent. For example, this will be an example proving you're innocent. The FBI is accusing you of a crime on a Saturday night on January 4th. I don't know, right? And then you're in court and you're like, look, I'm going to prove I have video evidence that I was somewhere else at that exact time or whatever, right? I was doing an interview with Fox Channel 6 at that time. I was with Fox Channel 6 KPRA, all right, doing an interview about just, the new movie I just saw at the theater. And it was at that exact time that the FBI said I committed the crime, right? A grand jury would throw that out. Like, well, not only is he not guilty, he proved he's innocent. Like, this is stupid, right? The flat Earth theory, not only does it cannot prove that it's flat, okay, you can't prove it. You can actually disprove it. And that's embarrassing. I don't know if people understand how embarrassing it is to believe the flat Earth theory. Now, before anybody says, look, man, oh, this guy, he just believes everything everybody tells him, and he's just a sheep. He's just this, he's just lost in the matrix, and he's just a lost cause. He doesn't know what's going on, right? Right. No, man. Look, there are conspiracies that I do, right? And like, I know that the government lies, okay? They fucking lied to take us to Vietnam, okay? They lied about the war on drugs. I'm telling people right now that the war on drugs is a fucking waste of time. And 50 years from now, everybody's going to know I'm right. They're going to be like, wow, look at this stupid time when drugs were illegal. Hopefully by then, okay, people will just get the shit together, right? This country anyway, and just get rid of that stupid war on drugs. It's just like we look today at prohibition and say, what the fuck were we thinking, right? We have to understand, yes, look, there are things I believe, that I can't, like, I'm not going to act like I have evidence about it, but like the JFK case, I don't know who did it. I suspect circumstantial evidence shows that the government had a hand in it, but I know I don't believe the government official story, because the government official story makes no fucking sense. All right? It contradicted the story of the police department to begin with, and then I never seen the FBI just say, "Oh, okay, we figured it out. It's over." Okay, just like that. checking nothing. Okay, they fucked with the autopsy report. The autopsy pictures they put out in the public were not the original autopsy pictures from the real JFK, because the bullet wounds would not make sense with the official government story. But that's not here nor there. All right. About being critical and having critical thinking and being suspicious about stuff and questioning things, and if you don't understand something, asking and getting that information, and it's more than just a Google search, right? I get that, right? I get that the media is very manipulative, okay, and I get all that, right? But a lot of you are very selective when you're anti this or anti that, okay? Especially when it comes to the media, especially which conspiracy theories you want to subscribe to, all right? All I could do is look at the evidence and also admit when something's a hunch, when admit when it's just something I believe, but I don't have evidence for. In this case, that's not the case, okay? Like, it is so obvious that the world is round. About it is literally a waste of time. It's a waste of time. If you were serious, okay, and weren't filled with confirmation bias, and you were very serious about getting to the bottom of it being round or flat, if you were really serious about it, I honestly don't believe you would come out with a conclusion, right? Using everything, the scientific method and the whole nine. There's no way you come out with a conclusion that the earth is flat, okay? It's not going to happen, right? And that's that. Let's do ourselves a favor and not waste time on this topic anymore. Peace.